last but not least, we had to talk about AI. And I really chose Ezra because he's the founder of Wayfinder, which is the must-read newsletter for you guys. And what's more interesting than anything else you'll read on AI is that he's a chief strategy officer at NPO, the Dutch public broadcaster. And so that means that when he talks about AI, he talks about it in a way that relates to us, what we do. So Ezra, come on up. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is a tough spot because I know drinks are waiting. So, but I hope you still have some energy for a deep dive here. Here's the clicker. My talk today will really zoom in on the changing discovery landscape and very much the impact of that new wave of AI on that landscape. Myself, I'm gonna see if I can come to my first slide here. I come from the landscape of broadcasting. I've been across publishing and broadcasting, but I started at commercial broadcasting in Belgium more than 20 years ago. And at that time, our biggest worry was very much about would they watch our channel or would they switch to another channel? And it was simple times, I would say. Since then, I think we survived waves and waves of disruption. Online channel challenged our distribution, social challenged our gatekeeping, and I think streaming and creators are challenging currently our business model. But each time we adapted, as we see here as well, and we absorbed the change. However, with AI, there is this feeling that it's moving faster, it's moving at a bigger scale than we're used to, and fundamentally, it also questions what media is. If you can create content with AI, if AI starts to have a role in curation, and if it can anticipate the needs of your audience before they even know what they want themselves, where do we fit into that bigger picture? So it's been almost 3 years ago that I would say this new wave of AI has been in our lives, and I think it was with the launch of ChatGPT. And we were asking ourselves, how do we actually use this? And it was very much about creating guidelines and first experiments. Last year, that question became much more, oh, I'm one slide behind, sorry. I thought you were. Last year, that slide was, the question was much more, how do we actually make sure that it helps us? And it was about efficiency. How can it make us more efficient? How do we make it integrated into our workflows? This year, I feel we're kind of moving to a much more existential question, like how do we survive in this new landscape? We're hearing about this whole idea of Google Zero, where traffic is disappearing. We're seeing AI being integrated in more and more services and more platforms. And there is this idea of agentic AI that acts on behalf of the users. And it feels like each year the questions are becoming a bit harder and the stakes are getting a bit higher. So in short, AI promises to solve everything, but it also kind of threatens everything. And to figuring out what we have to do isn't very straightforward, because on one day we're very amazed by the capabilities of AI, and the next day we're as frustrated by all the limitations. And researchers call this the so-called jagged frontier, which means as much as it's complicated. If you look at the pattern, you will see there's a lot of incredible breakthroughs, from the initial ChatGPT to multimodal models, real-time answers, reasoning, and the current wave of more agentic AI. And all of these are brilliant and honestly very disruptive breakthroughs, but they're also very flawed. They're too important to ignore. They're too unreliable to really run with them. But one thing is clear. It is really accelerating, and it has having impact on every aspect of media. From how we create content, to how we distribute it, to how our audiences are consuming it. And each of these shifts is worth a deep dive in itself, but today I will zoom in to the aspect of discovery and the distribution side of this media loop. But before I want to dive into that specific part, I want to give you a snapshot of the moment. What are some of the visible signs of this big shift that is taking place? And I would say, for one thing, it's the adoption. The adoption has exploded. ChatGPT now has 700 million weekly active users and is processing 1 billion queries daily. So you can no longer say this is just a hype. In the Netherlands, 86% of 15 to 20-year-olds say they're actively using AI. And mobile users are already spending over 16 minutes per day in the app. So AI has become almost as common as social media. And for the younger generation, it's quickly becoming a kind of a new habit to go to chatbots for search, for school, or for inspiration. I would even claim that AI tools are so popular that they're already reshaping the web and even changing digital culture as we know it. And some examples are vibe coding, which means that anyone who wants to create an app and has an idea can create an app just by describing it. Or the rush on so-called generated images. I think we all saw that explosion when ChatGPT OpenAI introduced this imaging model, and everybody suddenly forgot about copyright and wanted to have a Ghibli-style picture of themselves. Meanwhile, what was magical a few years ago is rapidly becoming a commodity. Leading AI providers, both private and open source, are incredibly close in performance. There's no single best AI in every category. And meanwhile, the processing costs of AI are plummeting, so making it very accessible to everyone. But despite all the improvements, we're still at that jagged edge. We're still seeing that we're not perfect. GPT-5 disappointed many users. It's horrible. I lost a friend. It's the worst model ever. What it shows is not so much how bad that specific model was, but rather how used we already are by using it. Because if it's a toy, you accept a mistake. If it's a tool that you're using, you start to wonder why it breaks. And there's the growing dark side. I would say bad actors are the first ones who have figured out how to really make money with AI because they're using it to create deep fake frauds and to kind of game the algorithm and create thousands of fake websites just to game Google's algorithm. So there are people out there who really figure out what they already can do with it. Our industry, not so much yet. This is a survey I did for WANIFRA, the World Association of News Publishers, and it shows clearly the gap between the reality and our expectations. We expect from everything that we do productivity gains, and 80% of them, 80% of the publishers are expecting increases of productivity, only 43% are seeing it. If you look at the revenue generation, 53% of media companies hope that it will generate some revenue. Only 9% are seeing it currently with their AI use cases. So there's clearly a gap between what we are hoping for and what we currently are able to achieve with it. Meanwhile, the scraping wars are also continuing. Bing scrapes 11 times for every view. ChatGPT almost 180 times for one view. And Anthropic almost 9,000 scrapes per view. That's 9,000 times a bot takes something for a query with almost nothing in return. And there are some initiatives to kind of block these bots. Cloudflare has announced something like this. But it's of course only a solution if what you have cannot be found somewhere else, because otherwise it will take it somewhere else. And finally, there is that threat of Google Zero. Some news websites are already seeing drops of 40% of their Google traffic. Others are less affected. The point is that for many queries, when you have an AI overview, there is no reason to go beyond that overview and to click. And Google claims otherwise, but so far they have not provided any data to actually really prove that it's not the case. So these are some of the things that you might have heard that are visible, that are, some of them are good, some of them are rather bad. But I think beneath that, there is something deeper that is shifting and that is brewing, and something that we might miss if we keep looking at media the way we do it currently. So what if the shift is not so much about adding AI to our workflows, using it to do what we do just a bit smarter, just a bit more automated, just a bit more fast? What if we're moving from AI in media to media in AI? In this model, everything is actually flipped. AI is no longer just an add-on, it becomes the primary interface through which people are experiencing media. We're not using AI, we're just part of an AI system. And in a sense, that's already what's happening when our content is being surfaced in these AI chatbots. We're becoming part of that ecosystem. And that's the playbook of all the big tech companies, as you can see. Just look at how comprehensive these ecosystems have become the last months. Google has integrated their Gemini AI in search, in Chrome, in Android, in Nest speakers, in TVs, in cars, in watches, in YouTube. Meta has done the same across WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Quests, and I can go on. So these aren't just tools anymore, these are complete connected ecosystems and environments. And if you're not figuring out how you're visible and relevant in these ecosystems, you might as well not exist. And in that future ecosystem, the user journey is also kind of shifting. It's becoming more ambient. This is just an example. When you wake up, an AI might greet you with a compilation of overnight developments that it surfaced specifically for you. During your morning commute, you can watch a personalized video that's really tailored to that moment and that content and that device that you have. In the afternoon, you can seamlessly continue listening while you are walking to your next meeting. And at the end of the day, AI has prepared a balanced recap and maybe a few unexpected suggestions for on your TV screen. In this user journey, the user never visits a website, never goes to an app. Everything is orchestrated by an assistant in the operating system in the interface. Of course, this specific vision might never fully play out. We will always see that there are things that are turning out different. But I do think it highlights a few key new dynamics. First of all, it's about finding. It's about AI surfacing content before a user knows that they need it. Secondly, it's about what I call feeling. It's the information and the content matching the moment, the mood, and the context. And third is about flowing. It's that seamless transition between modalities and tasks. And you already see that successful and kind of future-oriented media companies are moving in that space. Some companies already are trying to experiment in this space. Netflix is doing this. They're experimenting with generative search, allowing you to find content in a much more natural way by describing what you want rather than having just that specific keyword. A great example of feeling can be found in VRT Max, which is our Flemish colleagues, the public broadcaster there. They have they kind of try to feel the context of their users in the time of day, the device, the age, and the user needs, and try to adjust their homepage accordingly to reflect that. For example, putting trending podcasts prominently on top during your morning commute, serving shorter videos on your desktop during lunch, and offer continued viewing in the evening on your TV. Another example of AI adjusting to mood or needs are Google TV's generated summaries, reviews, and season-by-season breakdowns, again offering different hooks to guide users into a new viewing experience. And finally, if we go to flowing, you already see Google shows how you can design feeds that you never have to leave, generating audio overviews on demand, and letting you seamlessly switch from reading to listening. And that same thing is happening in smart TVs. Samsung TV is automatically detecting international content in other languages and seamlessly adding subtitles in your preferred language, allowing users to enjoy a broader set of channels. The reason that I show this is because I think it's really important to explore these new kind of dynamics, the new ways of finding, feeling, and flowing. I think they're key to kind of understand how you can better reach and engage and enable your audience. That's the reason why at NPO, we're not just focused on using AI for efficiency, because I think we have to also explore how these new search interfaces, these fluid formats, these kind of context-driven experiences and kind of using generative AI to improve accessibility are also important to understand the new paradigm. Part of that new paradigm is the shift from just attention to intention. The average AI prompt is much longer than traditional search, 23 words versus 1 or 2. That means also that AI chatbots learn much more of what their users want and what they're needing. And what users don't see and what you might not know is that AI bots aren't just asking our questions, they are rewriting them. And they're generating dozens of related questions behind the scenes, retrieving much more sources and synthesizing everything back to one answer. That means that every one of these subsequent questions is a chance to be found, to be skipped, to be scraped, to be blended into the final output. And perhaps this is a part that some of you might recognize if you're in the metadata sphere. We're already structuring our content and our data, but traditional navigation, which is about home pages and categories and articles, they will only bring you so far with an AI that is actually looking for logical connections and semantic relationships. Not where does your article sit, where does your video file live, but rather what happens next, what does it mean, how does it relate to, becomes more important in these AI environments. And that new and more intelligent vectorized data is also incredibly valuable for editorial teams. At NPO, we are currently piloting a combination of video intelligence, topic extraction, and transcriptions to weave together a multimodal database where we can search and match topics, guests, narratives against viewer data to improve our talk shows and really have better insights in them. Finally, the ultimate deep shift is towards an AI media landscape that's, I think, governed by two key dynamics. It's first of all predictive feeds that anticipate what you might want. TikTok for You feeds are quite a good example of that. And on the other side, answer engines that are responding to queries like AI overviews. And increasingly, you see a combination of those two mechanisms, a new hybrid AI-mediated discovery that is switching between predicting and answering. And this new hybrid AI-mediated discovery is seeing its first manifestations in the newest generation of smart TVs. They both offer predictive for you recommendations and generative search. And the goal is, of course, simple: let users access any content, live TV, on-demand shows, streaming apps or event short-form videos, all from one unified hub with minimal effort through these two pull and push mechanisms. And for now, we're still in the early stage, but if you look at the latest models, they're all offering now AI assistant buttons, voice search. They feel a bit like a gimmick, but it's clear that we're moving to an era where a smart TV might actually become smart. That future of discovery will not only be defined by these two dynamics of pull and push. I also think that there's another other perpendicular mechanism that is working, that is between centralized discovery and alternatives that are decentralized. Because there are decentralized alternatives as well. One alternative are models that are running locally on your device and that make predictions based on your personal data without that data being shared to centralized profiles. That's the playbook that Apple is following with their Apple Intelligence that's running on your device with your specific data that's not shared. It's a local AI agent that's running on your device in a private way. Another even more interesting but very immature alternative is ensuring that every website, every destination becomes intelligent and becomes a conversational destination. So rather than having one place, one chatbot where you go, that intelligence is actually super spread. That's currently what Microsoft is trying to do by introducing a new standard called NLWeb. The tech is maybe complex, but the idea is quite simple. You just add a few lines of code to any site, and it becomes AI-enabled, making it easier to kind of discover and have conversations with a website in a new way. And you heard the word agents because we're coming to, I'm not sure, yeah. We're coming to the bridge to the future, which is the agentic age, agents taking over. We're still very early on this, but we're on the brink of an AI that doesn't just find things, but that's acting on it as well. There's a few new browsers out there that have been launched, like this one called Dia, that claims it can shop for you, it can plan your travel, it can do some research, and it can help you with any number of things. These are they're not far along, they're far from perfect as well, but there is clearly, again, a playbook. Google is following suit, again, enhancing the idea that you don't have to leave the browser because anything can be found, and now also anything can be done from one destination and in one click. And so in these ecosystems that we saw before, AI companies want to become super assistants, personal super assistants, that remember your preferences, that capture your intent, that notice your behavior, that can plan, reason, and then act on your behalf. And soon they will know more about you than you know yourself. They might know you better than yourself. And so they will play a huge role in what kind of media you get served. And the reason is, of course, that there's a land grab in terms of data that's happening. There's a huge question around data and privacy. And in Europe, of course, the new AI Act restricts the kind of data that they can collect. But even then, if you look at this, AI bots are collecting a staggering number of data types. Over 35 different data types are currently being collected, from your contact info to your purchase history, building a very intimate understanding of audiences and consumers. And finally, in this future, AI tools are acting on behalf of their users. They are reading websites like we do, they're visiting sites, they're filling out forms, they're pulling out information. And media companies face a choice. Do you just optimize for a human audience, or do you also optimize for these machines? If you ignore the trend, you risk being left out. But if you just optimize for the machines, you might lose that human connection, which is also important. These developments, of course, also offer new opportunities because they could lead to entire new marketplaces where user agents will negotiate access with media systems. Imagine a situation where a user's personal AI assistant is negotiating with a media company's paywall, potentially arranging micropayments or very specific tailored bundles based on specific content needs. And these new protocols are currently being designed, and like a big credit card company like Visa is already offering and announcing AI-ready credit cards and specific wallets so agents can start shopping for users. Anyway, that's still, as most of these things, it's still a big gamble. We're almost at the end of my presentation. And the one thing that I wanted to say is that currently we all are asked to make very big bets on something that's still very fragile, and a lot of critical questions are remaining unanswered. And I would say there remains a significant gap between the vision for AI in media and the current reality of the technology. We are hoping for high trust environments, excellent performance, affordability as well. We still grapple in reality with bias, hallucinations, performance limitations, and high tech costs, although they are plummeting at the moment. And closing that gap will be vital, certainly if we want to really use this at scale across all of our services and all of our platforms. This also requires an evolution within our companies, I would say. On the creation side, we will need a balance between how much we want to control versus how much autonomy we want to give to AI systems. And we have to decide if we want to just optimize what we're already doing or completely transform how we work in new ways. And that means embracing AI agents, embracing hybrid processes where man and machine might work differently together, fundamentally changing how we create media. The same is true for where we want to be present in the experience. Do you gonna bet on feeding that prediction feed or answering engines? Or do you want to incorporate these new ways of searching and discovery on your own destinations? I don't think there's one single right answer. It really depends on your organization's vision, on your values, on your capabilities to build things, and on your audience. I do think, as a closing thought, that using AI in itself will not be the big differentiator. What will matter most is how you use AI in your data, in your content, in your integration, and in the user experience. And I think the media organizations that will lead will be the ones who can really make meaningful connections between their content and their brand, and the needs and the context of their audiences in a seamless product experience. So that's it. I realize I rushed through it, but I had a lot of more material and much more ground to cover. I hope it was useful. Happy to talk further and take any questions if you have them.
All right, go ahead. A couple of questions and then we're off to drinks. Anyone?
Ezra, thank you. Fascinating. I was wondering whether there's an analyst I follow, Doug Shapiro, no relation to Evan, who wrote that. I'm paraphrasing and maybe I misunderstood, but I think his point was in the era of agentic AI, where the open web effectively is heavily affected, big trusted media brands like the NPO, Channel 4, the BBC, and many other brands we've got here actually might be good for them, because representing trust would still mean that non-AI traffic still comes to you, but doesn't go to many other places. Would you agree with that?
I agree. I think in the new era, the brand power and any value that's connected to that, trust is a big value there, will be very important to keep and maintain that direct relation and be a destination. I do think there's not so many big brands that actually can claim that, and it will be more difficult in the future. So I think a few big brands will be able to maintain that direct relationship. The others will have to figure out how they can live within that new ecosystem.
Sorry, but I'm optimistic for that reason, because in the world of AI dross, having a brand wherever it shows up, so even if it's Channel 4 on YouTube or Channel 4 on whatever in this agentic world, means that's been thoughtful and it's not going to ruin your kids or ruin your day or just be AI dross. I mean, I don't know anyone's been on LinkedIn recently. Obviously, Evan notwithstanding. It's a tough place to be there. So that's when I get too depressed, that's exactly the thought I have.
Agree.
That's it? All right. Okay. Ezra, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. So we're going to have some drinks in a few minutes, but just a shout out to my partners at Irdeto. Once we've all worked our asses off on Sunday afternoon at their booth, we're going to have some drinks. So, if you're tired and everything, come join us, all one. And for those who were not here at the top, 2 pieces of news. For the others, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a repeat. But so Streaming Made Easy Live is going to Lisbon, even though the weather has been amazing here today. So that's the first thing on your list. And I'm doing this in partnership with the Stream TV team. They're doing their first event, Stream TV Europe, in a few months. So Kevin, Bevin, I've seen Joe, the team is here. If you want to chat, get an understanding of what Stream TV is. We're going to be curating pretty much what we did today on April 13. And because IBC put out the dates already for next year, I know, kind of depressing. You haven't even started this one. But September 11th, IBC, and therefore September 10th, next year, Streaming Made Easy Live. Thank you, everyone. And now, drink.